Coming up, we are continuing coverage of the protests in Harlan County, where Black Jewel miners still want answers and the money they are owed. And officials in McCreary County are angry over a department policy that forbids probation and parole officers to assist police in emergencies. Plus, one volunteer firefighter is left with nothing after his home in Perry County burned to the ground.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:01 on Tuesday, July the 30th. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning in to Mountain News This Morning. It's supposed to rain today, and it's about expected as we have seen beautiful days over the past week. Let's bring Brandon in this morning to give us a breakdown of the timing of that rain. Brandon?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit later on in the afternoon hours for the bulk of it gets here, but hopefully if your car needs to be washed off like mine does, it will help you out at least a little bit. We take a look at the cameras this morning. We start up on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountain there, US 119, a fairly quiet start to the morning there. Not much fog there, but the rain starting to push into those northern and western counties there, back up toward I-64 along the Mountain Parkway on the western side there, but not a whole lot of it just yet. Visibility issues starting to pop up across the region. Lexington over toward Ashland along 64, down into parts of the Cumberland Valley there. You see Harlan at 2.5 miles, anything less than 5 miles, very dense fog. So we're looking at that there in some of those sheltered valleys. We're also looking at temperatures that are still very mild this morning, from 65 to about 71, the range there this morning, but they are dropping a little bit. So your iced coffee forecast, take the umbrella with you. You'll need it at some points. Not too warm this morning, so we'll just go with the medium coffee cup there. And your app forecast, as we go deeper into the day, you'll see those rain chances increase, getting up to about a 70% chance this afternoon and this evening. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, yesterday, laid-off Black Jewel miners watched as crews loaded a train in Harlan County. The miners lost their jobs when the company filed bankruptcy more than 1 month ago, abruptly losing their income, health benefits, and access to their 401ks. They are still searching for answers almost 1 month later. Some protesters say the only way they're leaving is in the back of a police car. WYMT's Connor James is there now talking with miners as the protest continues into its 16th hour. Connor?
Will, since those initial protests at around 3:30 yesterday, these miners have really had one question they want answered, and that's why they're here. The question is, when will they get paid? Many of these miners are going on a month now, and they really have the same amount of questions as they did as the day they found out they no longer had their jobs. Now, these folks have been out here all night hoping that what they're doing will result in some answers. There's been a filter of people throughout the night. They're staying watch over these tracks leaving Clover Lick right along US 119 near Cumberland. They say they're not going to let a train carrying coal that they mined pass through while they still have no payment. Now, there's a little more than 20 miners and their families, but earlier there was nearly 100 people or so. And I've talked with some who say they'd rather go to jail than let a train pass by.
And you know, you see all of us miners that's out here right now still supporting. You know, yeah, we're standing on the tracks. We're playing cornhole on the tracks. Anybody wants to play cornhole, come out and join us. If it includes me laying on this track to get my money, I'm going to get my money.
Now, Will, tomorrow, this is important to mention, Black Jewel will be back in court, so hopefully that will provide some answers then. Another interesting thing to note, a lot of people, local businesses and just people in the community have come out bringing food, bringing water, bringing chairs for these people, these miners and their families who are now going on hour 16 of being out here. I'll send it back to you, Will.
All righty, Connor, we'll be back with you at 6:30 for one last look before you get to return home to a nice pillow. Thank you, Connor. Well, this started yesterday afternoon when roughly 12 laid-off Black Jewel miners tried to block a train from leaving, and Kentucky State Police got involved. This is happening near one of the many mines owned by Revelation Energy and Black Jewel, one of their subsidiaries, that has yet to pay hundreds of miners for weeks of work. WYMT's Emily Bennett says their message is simple. They want their money. She continues our team coverage this morning.
This Thursday marks 1 month since Black Jewel declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The hundreds of miners still have yet to be paid and feel no closer to answers than on day one.
It's been rough the last month because I ain't had no money coming in.
Chris Lewis was one of dozens who saw this locked fence and loaded train taking coal away from the mine.
I heard they was loading trains. I was going to see if there's Company official over here to ask them when I was going to get my money.
He's thousands in the hole.
Pay us. That's all we want, no money, what we work for. Pay us.
Many others had that same message. They just want their money. Around 3:30 Monday afternoon, that message turned into action.
We're just here to do it for all the coal miners that got bankrupt, haven't been paid yet. They're sitting here loading trains. Exactly why we're doing it.
Shortly before 6 o'clock Monday, Kentucky State Police broke the protest up. No one ended up being arrested at that time. Shane Smith was on the tracks. He watched as the train passed by.
We want our money more than anything. Go back to work, we want our money. They owe us money, we can't get our unemployment. They won't give our 401k to us. I mean, there's a bunch of us out of work. They didn't pay our 401k in, they didn't pay our child support in, and our last check's bounced. We want our money.
His story is similar to many miners we talked to. Still no money and still no answers. In Harlan County, Emily Bennett, WYMT Mountain News.
We have been told by the city of Cumberland that they will not be sending police out there. Most of the folks at the site speculate CSX will have to send their own people. Black Jewel officials will be back in court tomorrow. Now, one man is left with nothing after his home in Perry County burned to the ground Monday afternoon. The Vicco Volunteer Fire Department responded to the call, but when they got there, the damage was already done. The fire hydrant near the house did not work, leaving firefighters to use 1/2 a mile down the road. The neighboring house was left with its siding melted off. The owner of the home, Matthew Sumner, is a veteran of the fire department.
Hopefully we can give him some help out here and everything for him and his family. So we deeply regret that we couldn't do any more.
No one was home during the fire. Firefighters say the flames began in the back of the house. The cause has not yet been determined. It has been nearly 2 weeks since a McCreary County deputy was shot in the line of duty. Deputy Tyler Watkins was responding to a domestic dispute. Kentucky State Police say Mark Dungan shot at the deputy moments after he arrived. But as the deputy waited for help, 2 nearby officers with a different agency were told not to respond. Miranda Combs looked into the policy stopping 2 probation and parole officers from helping.
In a county like McCreary, covered in tight back roads that wind all over, a 5-mile drive really isn't that far. 5 miles here can mean the difference between life and death.
I've known you for 20 years. I haven't seen you this angry.
Well, it's, when an officer goes down, it's a standing rule in law enforcement. Everybody goes. If you're close, you drop what you're doing and you go. And the hell with policy and the hell with procedure. You go.
On July 16th, officials say McCreary County Deputy Tyler Watkins was shot twice by Mark Dungan after Deputy Watkins showed up at Dungan's home to do a welfare check. Commonwealth's Attorney Ronnie Bowling says at the time, a constable and a volunteer firefighter were 3 miles away. And 2 probation and parole officers were 5 miles away. The probation and parole officers called their supervisor and explained they were driving to the scene to assist law enforcement.
And they were given the stand down order while actively we had a deputy who was bleeding to death.
According to the Department of Corrections, there is a policy in place that a probation and parole officer only has jurisdiction over someone on probation or parole. Since that wasn't the case here, their supervisor told them not to go help the downed deputy.
And then to be called off is outrageous. It's totally outrageous.
Ironically, there's a good chance the probation and parole officers have more training than some of the sheriffs in this state.
It's a shame that they're held down by some ridiculous directive or policy or KRS statute.
Keep in mind, this is a rural part of Kentucky where there are very few law enforcement officers. In bigger cities, there's plenty of officers and no need for probation and parole to get involved. We asked to sit down with the Department of Corrections Director of Probation and Parole. She declined, but did send a statement saying they stand by what happened that night in McCreary County. They say probation and parole officers aren't trained to be first responders, or they might hurt a police investigation. So in a nutshell, they say nothing went wrong that night.
And it's not something that needs to be kicked down the road, because this exact same situation can happen right now, today.
Williamsburg Police Chief Wayne Bird says his officers work with probation and parole officers every day because the probation and parole office is in his town.
Now that I know this, I'm going to have to rethink the way we do things because I'm just not comfortable with my officers being out there assisting an agency who I know is not going to assist my officers in time of need.
You believe that this only helps exacerbate a divide?
When you have supervisors and legal telling department heads that we're not going to send people to your officers in distress, how can it not create a divide?
Ironic, coming from a place where even the roads aren't big enough to have a divide. In McCreary County, Miranda Combs, WKYT.
Forecast this morning starting off dry, but again, those rain chances are coming in with that cold front. They'll be here later today. Let's take a look, see what's going on at Stonecrest Golf Course in Prestonsburg this morning over in Floyd County. Pretty quiet, just a few clouds there in the distance. I think we'll see those start to increase even more in those eastern counties as we get deeper in the morning. Already seeing that trend out to the west. So we're looking at the satellite and radar loop, and you can see the rain starting to work its way into eastern Kentucky. Not quite here yet. Some visibility issues down in the Cumberland Valley, so be careful of some patchy dense fog on your drive around this morning. Looking for 70 degrees right now in Pikeville, 71 in Jackson and Ashland, 70 Moorhead, Prestonsburg, Logan also at 70, but some mid to upper 60s there across parts of the southern half of the area. Day planner for today, we are going to see temperatures increase into the low to mid 80s, and chances for rain also increase as we get deeper into the day. Will?
All righty. Thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Just ahead, the Pike County Schools District is working with a new program to provide a smoother transition for incoming freshmen. And an event held at Whitley Center Intermediate School gave out school supplies to help ease the financial strain it can put on families.